welcome you too. See if we can get a few people on here to have a discussion about racism. May or may not be aware, I did a video covering that on both my Coral Bay Grotto channel and on this grammar channel. And so far, I've only gotten good feedback from it, from all races that have contacted me or commented on it. I don't think people realize how prevalent racism is on Earth today. As much as some people like to think that they don't perpetrate it, they actually do the minute that they use or single out one race over another, either in their descriptive terminology or what have you. And I think that if you are with the volition of learning quantum grammar, this is definitely something that you have to address and you have to have a cognition of. So that's why I'm including this on my grammar channel, because it has to do with Rule 1, Rule Equal in a geometric level playing field of contract. When you look at the Black's Law Dictionary definition of racism, you will find that it says basically favoring anything that favors one race over another. And this is where, some people are going to be uncomfortable with this. Some people may shut this video off after they hear me say this. But when you look at things like BLM or Purple History Month or anything like that, that's racist. That's racism, because you're favoring one race over another. I know that one of my favorite YouTube genres would be considered the, I guess part of it is the prison genre. And that also bleeds into the sort of rap gangster podcast genre. Those things are filled with so much racism. It's crazy. You do have a there is one race that predominantly dominates that genre. Okay? Now I'm just going to throw out a couple names as examples. Like there's a YouTuber named Charleston White who is from Texas. And he it's unreal the amount of racism that comes out of this guy's mouth. And he doesn't claim not to be a racist. He has said some very, very, very horrible things about white people, about white children, about white women, and things that he has done or would do to white women. Like, for example, he said that he's glad that, these school shootings, that they shot the white children and so on and so forth. And then on the other hand, he claims to be a community activist. And he speaks at elementary schools, predominantly black elementary schools, but elementary schools. So if you really think about this, now I don't know if Charleston White is a character, if that's who he really is, or if he's just trying to do this for YouTube money. But the point is that anybody can look up his name and find these horrible videos of him saying horrible things about white people. And yes, that means those elementary school students that watch him speak can find these videos. And so if they look up to Charleston White, what are they going to emulate? They're going to emulate this racist guy. Same thing goes to the white people who do the same thing and speak the same way about black people or about Arabs or whomever, Jews, whatever the case may be. It's the same deal. Although it seems to me, it really does seem to me that certain races are favored over others on social media platforms. It definitely seems that way. I could be wrong, because I'm just one individual looking at it from one perspective. But I definitely see it happening. I'd like to get some comments in here for the couple people who are watching this. If you could share your experiences. Because this racism thing, it's really got to stop. It's really got to stop. There seems to be a dinosaur in my house right now. Maybe the topic is making the dinosaur uncomfortable. Okay. Razvan says, I think they are favored by the majority, which are their peers. When you say they, who are you speaking about, Razvan, when you say they? Because we definitely have to be very specific about what we're talking about here, because it is a very sensitive topic. While I'm waiting, your last question, sorry. Okay, but who do you mean by they? Like, who is they? Who are they? What do you mean by they? I think they are favored by the majority, which are their peers. About the people favored by social media. So you don't want to say it, Razvan? You don't want to say who they are? I understand. So here's the thing. I was trying to think of an example of someone who has basically been banned, literally banned and blocked by most social media platforms. And that's an individual named Varg Vikernes. I don't know if anybody out there knows who Varg Vikernes is. Now, let me preface this by saying I do not think that Varg Vikernes is a racist. Now, people are going to look at me and be like, whoa, how can you say that? You know. Listen to me. And listen very closely. Varg Vikernes is a proponent of paganism. If you don't know who he is. All right, let me go through the whole history real quick about Varg Vikernes. Back in the 90s, like 1995, 96, he was in a band called Burzum. He was also in a band called Mayhem, the black metal bands coming out of Scandinavia, Norway, Switzerland, those types of places. And some personal matters happened, and he ended up killing a guy, stabbing him 30-some times, and Varg went to jail for this for many years. I don't even know how many years, but he did his time. And to this day, he admits that he killed the man and that he would do it again, that he had good reason to. And studying Varg and the way he conducts himself, I think Varg is an honorable man. It doesn't matter to me that he murdered someone. I don't know the ins and outs of that situation, so I'm not going to really comment on that. But I look at the way he performs in other areas. He cultivates his belief system of paganism. He's married and he has children. He's monogamous. He believes in keeping his bloodline, his race, pure, which is white European. He thinks that people should stay in their homelands where they were born, meaning their ancestors were born, meaning he thinks that there's a reason why nature puts people in certain places naturally. For example, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, white-skinned, white Europeans are conducive to the climate of Europe, just like dark-skinned, dark-eyed individuals are congruent with Africa and that climate. And if you switch the two out, you will find that the white European will not do very well in Africa, and vice versa. Just like the Native American is conducive to North America. So on and so forth down the line. Anyways, Varg says that he thinks, and this is his belief, that people should just stay where nature intended them to be. Like, we can trade with one another, but let's stay where we're supposed to stay, where nature intended us to stay, where we are most efficient at surviving. So that's his stance. And because of that stance, he has been blocked from social media. Now, I don't support or condemn anything he says or does. What I'm trying to do is juxtapose what he's done and his reasons for being banned from the internet versus this genre that Razvan and I are talking about, where you have these individuals who dominate that genre. Basically, it's mostly black individuals, and they speak very derisively about white people. Like, they use the term white boy as an insult. Like, oh, white boy, and they use it in a very derogatory fashion. But yet, they're allowed to continue with the vitriol and the hate. What is the difference between that and Varg Vikernes? Varg Vikernes doesn't really make any type of personal racial slurs, yet these individuals do, and these people are promoted and allowed to have their voices heard on social media, while Varg is not. You see what I'm saying? Now, the reason could be that YouTube and other platforms are bowing to the pressure put on them by whatever political agendas that are out there, that this is the agenda we want to promote. We want to promote this hatred, this racial divide. We want to promote that. Not only do we want to promote racial divide, we want to promote this particular brand of racial divide where it's okay to use the term white boy in a very derisive, insulting fashion. It's also okay to use the N-word repetitively across the board as long as you have dark skin. If you don't have dark skin and you use it, well, look out. So I think it's definitely an agenda. The reason I'm doing this video, the reason I'm talking about it, the reason why I did the racism video is because I want to draw the viewer's attention to these words and that the power that words possess or don't possess. The value of something is what you put into it. If you let a word hurt you, that's your choice. They're just words. So to keep with the title of this broadcast, Rule 1, Rule Equal, YouTube is definitely not Rule 1, Rule Equal. It's definitely not. Social media is not. But we know this going into it because no one's twisting our arm to be here. No one promised that it was going to be fair. The only fairness is what you bring to the table. I don't know who they are, groups. There is donor KPAP in all the cities, Nordic countries. There is donor KPAP. I'm not sure what that means, Razwan. It's a good exercise for anyone to realize how many racist people there are in their cities. I have to say that, realistically, I'd have to say 9 out of 10 people are racist in one form or another. I was raised in a racist household, in a racist town. I only learned how not to be racist later on. I have been the recipient of racism. The times when I was in an all-black neighborhood, I was a recipient of racism. When I was in an all-Mexican neighborhood, I was in an illegal immigrant Mexican neighborhood in Arizona, I was a recipient of racism. I mean, there is no race that has not been a recipient of racism. Perhaps some more than others, right? If you're black and you're in the wrong color neighborhood, you're probably going to be a victim of it. If you're white and you're in the wrong color neighborhood, you're probably going to be a victim of it. If you're Asian and you're in a certain neighborhood, you're probably going to be a victim of it. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. That's why we're here doing this video, why I'm talking about it. To get the people that I'm talking to realize this and to navigate with the honor and the grace and the peace and neutrality. Because they're just words, ladies and gentlemen, they're just words. One time, I was with my daughter in Arizona, and we were taking a stroll around the block in our hood, and this Mexican family, mother, daughter, and a little dog were walking down the street. And my daughter was like, "Oh, look at the cute little dog." And she was like, "Can I pet it?" And the Mexican little girl said, "No, my mama says white people can't touch our pets." Her daughter said that. It was like 6 years old. And the mother couldn't even speak English. And they illegally immigrated to this country because their country was so bad they come here, but yet they have this attitude towards, you see what I'm getting, where I'm getting at here? It's just all messed up. Now, I didn't get mad. I didn't get offended. Because from my job at the time, I was in contact with mostly Mexicans, and I got to know a lot of them and their attitudes and why they think the way they think. And everybody has a story. And so if someone like that woman is going to act that way, then there probably is a reason for it. Maybe they got treated a certain way when they were coming across the border. Who knows? Same here. My country hates everyone except rich people. Rosbon, that's a pretty broad statement there. Your country. I don't, I've never been to your country, so I can't really speak for your country. And I definitely can't speak for, I don't have a country. Because for me, those concepts don't really apply. There is North America. The people always say, I'm proud to be an American, like that song, proud to be an American where at least I know I'm free. Well, what American are you talking about, son? Are you talking about North America, Central America, South America? What are you talking about? And what is this term African American? How can you be an African American? Where were you born? Whatever land you were born in, that's the land you come from. Your parents may have came from a different land, but not you, homie. Like me, I don't even know what I consider myself. I guess a North American. I was born in North America. I'm okay with that. So let's get back to this racism thing. I have some friends that are from Kazakhstan. I don't know if anybody watching this knows where Kazakhstan is. But they came to the United States like 15 years or so ago because they couldn't live in their country. They told me that my friends from Kazakhstan, actually they considered themselves to be Turkish Russians. But they said that the Russians and the Ukrainians thought of them as dark skin, meaning the Russians and Ukrainians thought of my friends the way that racist Americans think of black people, so to speak. Racist white Americans would think of black people. That's the way the Ukrainians and Russians think of the Kazakhstan, people from Kazakhstan, or Arabs. It's crazy. Or like some people from China that I got to know. These individuals from China told me that in China, the lighter your skin is, the better opportunity you have. And the darker your skin is, the lower level type of job you're going to get. And the worse you're treated. And that some people actually bleach their skin so that they can have the advantage of having white skin. Unreal. Our country is the language we speak. So is my country correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar? For this claimant's knowledge of the facts is with this claim of the country with the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar by the claimant. I got the same treatment in Greece, even if I was whiter than Greek people. Italians had the same issue, I guess, in the 17 and 1800s. The Italians, some of them were very dark-skinned. And then you have the Irish people that are light-skinned, but yet were treated horribly for some reason. Well, no one else can get you, so it must be your country. I guess that's my way of saying that I don't really agree with your country is the language you speak. I mean, I get why you would say that. Definitely get why you would say that. But if you get, okay, to use the example that I was talking about earlier about the Mexican family in Arizona. So you have a mother and father that speak no English, and then they have a baby. And the baby grows up the first year or two around no one who speaks English. They're in Arizona, but the mother and father don't speak English. And the baby's not around anyone except for the mother and father. So therefore, the baby learns Spanish. So Razvan, does that mean that that baby is a Spaniard? And that the mother and father are not Mexicans? Because there is no language called Mexican. It's Spanish. So are all Mexicans Spaniards? You see what I'm saying? That's why your country is the language you speak doesn't make sense to me. That's like if you are in Canada and you speak French, does that mean you're French? There are the socially accepted jokes that give them away for the racism and other peculiarities. Well, here's the other side of the coin, too. There are jokes that are funny that have to do with race. If you can't laugh at yourself, then you've got a problem. Now, if it's a cruel joke, no, I'm not on board with that at all. But there are certain peculiarities that each race has that I'm sure anyone listening to this can certify. T-Cree. I don't know what that means. T-Cree. Message retracted. Uh-oh. YouTube is censoring this feed. And this is a topic that gets people very uncomfortable. I just kind of putting the feelers out to see who would actually pop on here. And at one point there were quite a few people on, but it's a topic that not many people want to address. I just hope that my volition has come across and affected those who are actually listening to this, and they're recognizing that racism is still a huge problem and is actually being made worse by the mainstream media, by social media platforms. Racism is being made worse across the board. I've been on LinkedIn, which is a very interesting place in and of itself. If you get into LinkedIn, I was just on there yesterday, and I followed all these businesses and profiles that have to do with The Hague. There's a lot of wonderful information on there. But anyways, I've been posting my racism video, link to my racism video, on a lot of the United Nations posts, and I've been getting a lot of positive feedback about it, which is pretty awesome. Well, Razvan, I appreciate that. I don't know if I'm quite ready to be put in the same sentence with David-WYNN Miller, but I appreciate the sentiment. I think that you get it, that there is no hatred in my heart for anyone. Hatred has no place in correct sentence structure. Rule 1, rule equal. In the last 5 years, I've been blessed to have been able to teach many, many people across the earth from all different cultures and races. Well, you all know my best student, Ricardo Marseille. Pretty sure you all know him and his YouTube channel. And everything that I'm sharing with you, I'm not going to speak for the man, but I could reasonably guess that he agrees with everything I'm saying, because we have had conversations about this. And then I also have some good students from Australia and New Zealand. Who else? Greece, the Netherlands, Denmark, of course, Canada, Mexico, Brazil, Haiti, Jamaica, all different places. David was kind of scary talking about occults and agencies. Well, that's all, Razvan, that's all assumption, presumption anyways. That's just storytelling. David was an amazing, amazing storyteller. And as far as I know, David didn't have a racist bone in his body. David was one of the kindest people I've ever spoken with. I was going to say I've ever met, but I never actually met him in person. I was blessed to speak with him on the phone on multiple times in the last year of his life. But I never actually met the man, unfortunately. But really, I didn't sense any type of racism from him. And that's the other thing that I wanted to address, is that if you're making decisions based upon, if you're judging an individual solely based upon the color of their skin, then you are in violation of Rule 1, Rule Equal. I'm sure Greek people know what I'm talking about. No hatred there. There are many layers to a society. Well, I know one guy that's actually, I don't know if he's active on YouTube anymore. A guy from Greece that, I'm trying to think. I don't think we ever did a workshop. But he's been sort of in and out of the quantum grammar domain over the years. His name was Andy Devine, I think was his name. Yeah, that's his name, Andy. And we've maintained cordial relationship, and I don't sense any racism from him. But again, I don't know very many people from Greece. Well, that's the same thing here, is media-driven racism. Like, I don't understand. I really don't understand over here in North America, the whole rap genre. Now, people say, well, it's a cultural music. It's a cultural music, rap. So what is culture? Like, when I think of culture, I think of contributions to positive performance of a society. Like literature, well-written literature, a story, beautiful music, arts and crafts, things that are passed down. The positive things of a culture. I don't understand the rap genre as being a positive part of culture if they're talking about how many people they've shot, how many people they've robbed, the drugs that they're selling. They refer to their wives and girlfriends as female dogs, which means those wives and girlfriends are definitely someone's daughters or someone's mothers. They refer to them as female dogs. How much money and jewelry that they can get. How much dope they can smoke. I mean, how is this a cultural phenomenon? Again, you know, I'm not a part of their culture, so I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's whatever you value. As I said, the value of a thing is what you put into it. And if those are the things that you value, then I guess that's going to become your culture. Culture is something cultivated, grown. Well, then that's their culture then. That's what they're growing. Just racism. That's part of their culture then, is the racism. Because that's definitely intrinsically cultivated and grown into their stuff, is racism. Because they use the N-word ad nauseum. Every other word is the N-word, 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 over and over and over and over again. If one's culture is based upon those types of things, then how do you think that your children's children are going to do if these are the things that they are taught? What's going to change? Is it going to get worse or is it going to get better? Now, I don't want people to think that I don't like rap, because there are some artists in rap that I do like. Mainly artists from the 70s and 80s. And one artist that's still around today that I enjoy is KRS-One. But as far as the most recent stuff, just like, I mean, and that's not just rap. I mean, that also has to do with today's country, today's rock and roll. It's all basically very superficial. It's all, to me anyways, I perceive it as very limited, very shallow. No culture really in it at all. And maybe that's by design. Maybe that's by design. The mainstream media has sucked all the positive value out of the art. Even as far back as like the 50s and 60s when rock and roll first came out, and people were so taken aback by that. It's like, oh, you don't even need to be skilled to play your instrument anymore. You just need to know a root fifth chord, and anybody, 3 chords in the truth. But even back then, you listen to Chuck Berry and his piano player, who actually wrote most of Chuck Berry's songs, is very articulate, like very clever lyrics. You want to talk about the king of rock and roll, you talk about Chuck Berry. Even Hank Williams. But then as time goes on, I just remembered something that Steve Earle once said. I don't know if anybody knows who Steve Earle is. He's a well-known, I guess you would call it Americana artist. I would call him a rock/country artist. He said that modern day country is people who are afraid of rap. Which if you've heard today's country music, you'll know exactly what he's talking about. And this is one of those sort of jokes that address racism in a humorous way, Razvan, the way you were talking about, without actually insulting anyone in a cruel or malicious way, while pointing out the obvious. So I guess my point in doing this live feed was to see if anybody out there would share with me some of their experiences with racism or chime in with their 2 cents. And I appreciate Razvan coming in here and sharing his thoughts on the matter, because he is from a very different perspective than mine. I'm not going to give away his location. I'll leave that to him if he wants to. I'm not going to tell him. I'm not going to reveal that information, but he is a long ways away from where I am. So I appreciate his input. Welcome, Jerry. Jerry just reminded me of a friend that I once had in South Africa. I'm not going to say his name either, because I'm pretty sure he's in the private and confidential, very private and confidential. But he used to share with me the racism that happened in South Africa. That there would be roving groups of black people with guns who would just come into a farm owned by white people, a house, a white family's house, and just kill everybody and rape the girls and steal the land in South Africa, like in the last 10, 15 years. And get away with it. Reason being of the apartheid that happened before that. So they felt that they were okay. It was okay for them to do that to these families because it was done to the black people's families before that. Because I think that maybe they believe that 2 wrongs make a right. Or maybe they were just looking for an excuse to hurt people. I don't know. But my friend would tell me horror stories like this that I just couldn't believe. Terrible things based upon racism. I just like everybody to keep in mind, the Rule-1, Rule-Equal. If you're going to learn correct sentence structure, then you're going to have a complete understanding of what Rule 1 Rule Equal is. And that includes, well, I should say, that does not include racism of any kind. Absolutely not. If you haven't seen my video on racism, I'd highly recommend it, especially if you're interested in the grammar. Now, I know your average Joe probably won't be able to get through the video because it does have a lot of grammar stuff in it, and a lot of people feel that that's very boring. But really, when you think about it, words control our lives and our actions. Words do. And if you are not going to be a steward of your words, then you're going to be controlled by them. That's just a fact. When you feel something, when you get hurt, when you think something, words pop into your head. There's no way around it. That's how important the word is. If you've ever read The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall, you will know this. Words and grammar are pretty much hold the power over existence. For example, if you have a fate writ volition claim like I do, fate basically means that how your life turns out is only as good as how well you can communicate. That's what fate means. And a fate writ volition claim just basically means you're writing down your fate. And you're giving closure to your volition on a piece of paper, on a document, contract, postal vessel, court venue. And again, if you want to create your own fate writ volition claim, you can go ahead and email me at the email address in the description of the video. And I can share with you how to do that, or how to begin doing that. But it all comes down to the grammar. You got to have a basis of the grammar. Got to learn the grammar. Got to have closure on that. Got to know what you're talking about. That's how you can be a steward of your fate. Jerry, you don't have any stories with regards to racism to share with us? I'm sure with your, well, I don't know if you have the same job as you did when we were doing workshops before, like, I don't know, what was it, a year, 2 years, 3 years ago? But I'm sure you've had some interesting experiences through that job. Or maybe not. Who knows? I'm just trying to get some participation here in the comments field. All right. I'll draw that to a close then. Thank you for joining me. Catch you next time. For all those who participated, thank you.